Hi everyone, I'm Ginger and this is Leigh, and this is our second day in Ecuador on our compassion trip. And I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about some of the things that we did today, which was different in that we learned about Compassion's leadership program, which is where the children that have been involved in the program as young children, as they get older, it gives them opportunities to go to college, and it's a very selective process. But what has been so great to see about Compassion is how they truly live out that tagline of breaking the cycle of poverty. And that's exactly what we saw today in these college students who had just been taught from a young age to break the spiritual poverty and the physical poverty, which is what, when we think of poverty, that's what we typically think about, is the no food and the no, unclean environment and hygiene and all that kind of stuff. But it is so much more. What we are seeing is so much more than that. And serious poverty is the spiritual poverty. And so we met these college students today who are now investing back into the community. And tonight we had some great music. There was a group of 5 brothers that were at one time in the Compassion program, and they played for us tonight, and they are all getting schooled in music, and it's just changing their lives. Compassion is changing their lives. It's not just a handout. It just doesn't give them a meal. They have mentors and tutors and people that invest in them and encourage them to break that cycle of physical poverty as well as spiritual poverty. So that's a little bit about our day today.
I have titled today's blog Mind Boggled, because what we were challenged today from our leader Nate was to think about how do we define poverty, and what is poverty to us. And part of the culmination of these last 2 or 3 days is I have come to a definitive answer of how to define poverty. And what I know for myself and am able to settle into is the definition of poverty is the lack or the loss of hope, is no hope. Because what we are seeing is kids that I can't even put in words what they live in and what they sleep in and just the extreme material poverty that they have. But they are the most joyous people I've ever met in all my life, and just smiles from ear to ear, and love and hug, and so appreciative, and why? Because they have hope. They don't have all their physical needs met, except for those that have been impacted by Compassion. But the people have hope because of you and I that sponsor kids and give these people hope. Because I go to the mall in Evansville or Nashville or wherever, and I see people that are 20 times, a gazillion times more wealthy than these kids will ever be, and yet have a cajillion times less joy. So they feel like they have no hope. So according to my definition, I claim them as being in poverty because they cannot find hope. And who is that hope, and what is that hope, and where does that come from? You and I know Jesus Christ. And that can be the only explanation for why these kids and these families can grin from ear to ear and go to sleep without all their physical needs met. Now, Compassion helps to come in and meet all of those needs, but they still are not going to live like you and I. I mean, not even close. So, in conclusion, for these 2 days for myself, poverty is now defined in my life as a lack of hope. And God has placed a passion and a mission in my heart to go out and tell you and all the places that Ginger and I speak to and all of our Speaking Through Me team, how we can be a part of sharing that hope to all of these people that may not have ever known. A lack of hope is now poverty to me. It has nothing to do with material things.
And so, tomorrow's our last day here. So with everything that Leigh's just said, the two of us, we've kind of got to start bringing this home now as to what do we do when we're not in Ecuador anymore. We see these people, compassion is meeting their needs, they're providing hope, but there's people back home, and just as well, that have that lack of hope. And, there's also people back home who are not in poverty necessarily that we may know, like what we are seeing as poverty here. But if you are at a church, at Christmas time, there's going to be people coming around. I know this family at my child's school that's in need. There's Angel Tree Ministries. There's all these kinds of things. But what today and these few days has really shown me is about how important that relationship is, that hands-on, because that is what compassion is so good at. I mean, they have just nailed it. It is that relationship, it is that intimate relationship with the child that allows Christ to change that child's life forever, that changes the family, that changes the community. And so I guess, the next time that list comes around, or there's a need at your child's school, or there's somebody in the office that's having a hard time, it is so easy to just write that check, or just, take a meal, or just do something that's, that's what got people way out here at arm's length. And we need to start, if we're going to start really living out the scripture and say that we are Jesus with skin on, we're going to have to get involved, and we're going to have to get our hands dirty, and we're going to have to invest in their lives to offer them hope. A meal, a check does not give somebody hope. That meets an immediate need. And we are about so much more than that. Christ is about more than that. Yes, needs need to be met, and sometimes that is part of the relationship process. But what I am guilty of is just writing that check or doing that whatever and having it stop there. And so really this experience is being a challenge for me as I get back home to be more hands-on, to invest in other people, and to break down those walls, and to show Jesus in that way.
Yeah. So that is the end of day 2. Mine's boggled. Just trying to get our minds around what God has allowed us to see, now has made us accountable to do something, and has made us responsible to share the mission and passion that He has allowed us to experience, and will never be the same because of it. All right. Y'all have a good night. This probably will be the last time we see you, unless, I don't know what.
Airport maybe.
Airport, yeah, something like that. All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.